Stewart Rhodes is our guest. Your phone calls, Ronnie, Scott, Karen, Mark, Bob, and others are coming up here in just a few minutes. Stewart, I was making the point as we went to break about how they're clearly turning the military and the police loose on the people. They're clearly training them that it's macho and cool to do all of this. That's why Oath Keepers is here, to go out and reach out to them. And I also want to get your take just on all the other announcements we're seeing and all the different reports of urban warfare drills and the military coming out on the streets and running checkpoints. What are the military sources you have saying? Are they really starting to get upset about this?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear you.
Are your military sources getting upset about the deployment of military forces on the streets?
Oh, you bet. I mean, the oath, here's the thing, though. The oath is the antidote. It's as powerful as any conditioning that's been attempted on the military has been done to them. I mean, it's been going on for decades. That was the whole, ever since the 90s, that was the whole point of Lieutenant Commander Cunningham's survey of the Marines, the 29 Palms, was that he saw a disturbing trend of conditioning the military to accept orders from foreign officers and to become involved in domestic policing. But so this conditioning has been going on for a long time. But the antidote is to remind them that their oath to the Constitution, and it's incredibly powerful. The founders are no dummies; they put it there for a good reason. You remind them of their oath, and a little light bulb goes off over their heads, and they're like, "Oh yeah." Well, what does that mean? That means I have to read the Constitution and understand it, and then once I understand where the lines are drawn, I have to stand. And so that's the thing that's grabbing them, and it's working. And that's why we saw.
Yeah, we're losing your phone. Or are you on a Skype phone or voice over IP phone, Stewart? Yeah, we might need to just cancel ever doing Skype phone systems. Or it may be our system. That's what ours is. But we'll try to get him back on the show today. That's why he obviously couldn't hear me earlier. I also wanted to talk about a story written last Thursday titled, "Former White House Speechwriter Suggests Military Coup Could Oust Obama." And this is being pushed That's why we need to become aware of what's being said and what's being done, because the establishment itself is talking about a military coup in America. And normally when you have a military coup to get out of one tyranny, it only creates another tyranny. And the article is, former White House speechwriter suggests military coup could oust Obama. Former White House speechwriter John L. Perry has courted controversy by suggesting that the U.S. military uphold their oath to defend the Constitution against domestic enemies, could stage a bloodless coup to oust President Obama. That continues the illusion that Barack Obama is running anything. Barack Obama is a corporate lawyer who has proven himself to be one of the biggest puppets in modern history in any nation. He reads off a teleprompter. So it's always this illusion that it's Obama violating the Bill of Rights and Constitution. And if we could just get rid of Obama, everything would be okay. No. We've got to audit the Federal Reserve and then abolish it and arrest the bankers. If you don't get rid of them, things only get worse. Going back to Stewart Rhodes. Stewart, lost you there. I was bringing up the article Paul Watson wrote about Newsmax's story with the former White House speechwriter John L. Perry saying that in an article originally posted at Newsmax website, Perry wrote, there's a remote, although gaining possibility America's military will intervene in a last resort to resolve the Obama problem. Don't dismiss it as unrealistic. Military intervention is what Obama exponentially accelerating agenda for fundamental change towards a Marxist state is inviting upon America a coup, and it's not an ideal option, but Obama's radical ideal is not acceptable or reversible, writes Perry. They're trying to spin these type of articles as if this is something Oath Keepers wants, when meanwhile it's former Bush people that are actually talking about this. And doesn't that reinforce the myth that Obama actually runs anything, when instead Ron Paul is running a counter coup with the End the Fed movement to remove the illegitimate corporate dictatorship. That's who we need to be talking about kicking out, but through legal parameters, once we educate the public that they're a bunch of criminal Ken Lay Madoff types.
Right. Well, the Newsmax article didn't mention Oath Keepers in particular, but here's the problem, is that what it's proposing is a false solution. You don't violate the Constitution to say that, and a military coup would be as wildly unconstitutional as anything any president could do. And so that's not the way to go. It's the people themselves. If anyone's going to revolt or overthrow a corrupt cabal in government, it's the people, not the military. And so that's our answer to that, is that the oath is to the Constitution, and nowhere in the Constitution is the military, is some general in sunglasses, authorized, take it upon himself to scrap the civil government and assume military command of the country. It doesn't exist. And so we're writing a rebuttal to that piece that'll be on our website.
Absolutely. In 1775, 1776, for those that don't know, they went and got the elected representatives of the 13 colonies to come and meet representing the people to then vote. You don't have a guy with 4 stars or 5 stars with sunglasses on. And I want to point out, the Nationals, and you've written papers on this, you can speak to it. We've had JAG officers on about it as well, and I've studied it in depth. We already have a military coup, as Thomas Barnett writes, but it's a good one, they think, where the global corporations now control our military through the National Security Council. And so you don't replace one military coup with another military coup. You point out how it's illegal and illegitimate, and we remove the coup of the Federal Reserve.
Well, back to what you said about the founding generation. I mean, look at the Declaration of Independence. You don't see George Washington's name on there or any of his officers. He didn't call the shots. He was a humble servant. In fact, he signed off in every correspondence to Congress, humble servant, your humble servant. So he put himself under the command of the civil leaders of the revolution. And so that's where we have to follow the same model. You don't have the military assume powers, assume control. So, but you're right. It's also that if you were to do a military coup, that could be falling right into the hands of people who would love to scrap the Constitution. So they offer you this one problem here, and then they offer the solution, and the false solution is a military coup. And you wind up going from the frying pan to the fire. You still scrap the Constitution, it's gone. And so now you're dependent upon whoever happens to be the general in charge. You know, so that's not how it's done in a republic.
Absolutely. Again, Stewart Rhodes, obviously in a busy office today as we speak with him. I've thrown out a lot of issues I want to discuss, and I've got some calls that I want to go to, but you're going to write a rebuttal to the article written by the former White House speechwriter John L. Perry for Newsmax. We'd love to publish that at Infowars.com as soon as we get that, Stewart Rhodes. But other issues that you're looking at right now, the military. What is their mood? What are the police saying? When you write these articles about the New World Order for SWAT magazine, what are the paramilitary local police saying?
Well, overwhelmingly, we get a positive response. Of course, we're getting the people who like our message most, but I think quite a few people, rank and file military and police, are waking up. And I've even heard through the grapevine that there are some generals who are behind what we're doing, are aware of those keepers and are in agreement. And so, you know, it's all about waking them up to what's going on in the big picture. And once they see it, most of them are men of honor, and they'll be on our side. And so that's why you shouldn't think, folks should not think that, oh, they're all going to follow orders, they're all going to do these things. They're waking up. Now, you know, of course, we get folks who write in after G20 and say, what about that? You know, how come, if you're all going to keep your oath, then why did that happen? Well, it's because we haven't reached those officers yet. You know, we just started. You got to give us a little bit of time. So, and you got to help. You know, don't just criticize us and say, well, that shows you're failing. You know, go out and reach them before they get to the G20, before they get nationalized and sent someplace else across the country.
Well, Stewart, we also know that, and this has come out in COINTELPRO documents from the 60s and 70s, it's come out with Hal Turner running around saying, go after the feds, when he was at the FBI MITS, worked for them, that there are people always calling for violence and always pushing violence and always saying, we're wimps, we're bad. Ron Paul isn't doing enough. Alex Jones isn't doing enough. Stewart Rhodes isn't doing enough. A lot of those people, it's turned out, are operatives paid to be online and to call into radio to just get everyone dissenting instead of saying, in less than a year, look how far Oath Keepers has gone. In the last few years, look how the Ron Paul revolution's gone towards auditing the Fed, identifying the real shadow government. I mean, we are having huge victories. And this is basic military psychology, where the establishment's telling us we're losing, we have no hope, oh, you're pathetic, or you're an agent, you're an agent. They're just doing all of this to get people to hesitate.